What's going on, everybody? Hope everyone's having a good start to your Thursday. This is the Going Broadway podcast. My name is Alex. To my front is Cole. Cole, what's going on?
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the greatest wrestling podcast ever.
Hope everyone is having a good start to your day. We're just going to talk a little bit of wrestling. Who do we got on here? Billy, Jeremy, Thomas, Ricardo Productions, Brandon, Carrie, Michael, Dwayne, Bonnie, Michael, thanks for tuning in. We sincerely appreciate it. So we got some new stuff for you guys today. We're going to roll out a more segmented version of our podcast, and we're going to see how it goes. We will still have viewer interaction with you guys, but we want to kind of stick to the topics at hand, so to speak, and we're just going to see how it goes. So that being said, there's something on the tip of my tongue, though. There's something I'm forgetting. Oh, yeah, that's right. If you're watching us live, you're automatically entered to win a free prize at the end of the show. So hang out with us, and we'll just see what happens at the end and go from there. It'll be a randomizer drawing, but if you're watching us live at that point in the show, so you got to hang out with us for a bit. If you're watching at that point in the show, we'll get you entered. So let's see. What is our first segment, Cole? By the way, props to Cole. Cole's the one that came up with these segment ideas, and I had like very little input in this. So Cole, thanks for coming up with this. We're going to do a top five. So what that means is we're going to do our top five stories picked by the one and only Alex and Cole Baby. So give us your thoughts as we kind of converse with each other. We'll converse with you. And yeah. What do we want to tackle first?
Let's see.
Let's pick one of yours.
So actually, let's talk about this one real quick. So we saw reported earlier this week, I believe it was, that Jeff Hardy has signed a new WWE contract, which I think everyone kind of shocked everybody.
Because it was so anticlimactic. It just like, oh, by the way, I signed a new contract. It's like, that's a big deal because a lot of guys were expecting him to possibly join Matt in AEW.
Yeah, especially with the whole, like, Jeff Hardy's a drunk storyline with Sheamus. I think it put just a lot of bad taste in people's mouths. And everyone thought, oh, this is, especially when Matt and Reba are on Twitter, posting how stupid the storyline is and all this stuff. You think that they're speaking on behalf of Jeff.
He had to approve it, though.
Next thing you know, he signs this deal, and along with that deal, he was able to convince them to bring back his No More Words theme music. So we should be, in the next few weeks, getting our old favorite Jeff Hardy music back. And tagged with that storyline, which is, I'm curious if he threw this in there and maybe got this, under the tables booked. Jeff Hardy actually wants to bring his Willow character to WWE and feud with The Fiend. I think that's a great idea. I think it gives The Fiend and Jeff Hardy something to do that's not title focused, that could go for a while. That's a storyline that you could take 4 months, 6 months, and really have some fun with it. So
agreed.
I thought this storyline was great. I think it's interesting that Jeff signed in the first place. Would love to hear some of your guys' thoughts on the matter. If you guys are excited that Jeff's in WWE, if you think he should have went elsewhere.
If you don't care.
If you really don't care. Let us know your thoughts on the Willow character. Is that something that WWE should push? Would WWE ruin the Willow character? Interested to hear your thoughts. Sound off in the comments below. But Alex, what's your thoughts on the whole Jeff Hardy signing?
I mean, I've not made it any secret that I'm a fan of AEW, not so much in general lately of WWE, but I will have to admit, like since the move to the Thunderdome, and it has it piqued my interest a little more. It just seems like it's a different environment. There's a story that actually came out yesterday that the morale has boosted significantly with everyone backstage since the move to Thunderdome, and for good reason. Now, that being said, ultimately, I side with whatever the talent, the wrestler, etc., feels like is in their better interest to benefit themselves professionally as well as personally, no matter how many zeros are at the end of the contract. If he feels like he's going to be happier in WWE, then, more power to him. Now, from a storyline standpoint, I'm really intrigued if they bring the Willow character back. If it's not going to be ruined, I think WWE needs to take a step back, kind of keep their hands off of it to some degree. Because we saw with the Woken version of Matt Hardy that WWE just they had too much input and it didn't go anywhere. Now, I understand some of that is creative. It's up to them to say, we're going to push him to, I think the furthest he got I use the word furthest for lack of a better way of putting it, he and Bray Wyatt won the tag titles, but that was basically the extent of any sort of a push. And I use that term push lightly. We had talked about when it was still around that they could have pushed him to the world title picture. And I mean, fans were all over it. And Vince just decided he didn't want to do it. If they're going to bring in Willow, I don't know if that's really a character that's like a WWE or Universal title kind of thing, which is fine. I view that differently than the Woken character when Matt was in WWE. So I'd be okay with it because, from a push standpoint, I wouldn't expect WWE to have it in a main title picture anyway, which is fine. If they have him feud with The Fiend, and I'm not going to jump the gun a little bit, or I phrased that wrong. I'm not going to jump the gun too much, but I want to say a little bit about something you brought up to me before we started the show. If they're going to bring back the Willow character and have him feud with Bray Wyatt, if what you told me is true, and I don't even know if we're going to talk about this on today's show, if what you told me is true, then that'd be an interesting Willow versus Wyatt family 2.0 kind of thing. So I'm excited about it. I think a lot of people would be as well. I mean, it seems like people would enjoy it. Bonnie says that would be awesome. Ricardo Productions says he would be on board. Pal Opa says, I think Jeff is happy where he's at right now, and maybe he's aiming more than just winning the Intercontinental title, maybe Universal or WWE Championship. That's why he re-signed with WWE. I don't know. I mean, I could see that, but at the same time, as wrestlers get up there in age, I think they become less concerned with their spot on the card and more of the mindset of, how do I improve the business? How do I push the next guy? Which, he might not want to do that. I don't know. He hasn't really said much, at least that I've read. So we'll see. What's next on our top 5? Let's see. Let's talk about this. Miro and AEW.
The best man.
I like the best man gimmick, but part of my issue is I've never been sold on Kip Sabian. And I mentioned to you and Austin, a friend of ours who a lot of you know, he's done our watch parties with us. I'll tell you this, it's giving a nice little rub to Kip Sabian, but I need to be on board with Kip Sabian before I fully am ready to jump on board with the whole best man as it relates to this storyline. We also need to see Miro actually in AEW. We need to see him compete. All we've seen is just his initial debut and then a short vignette from last night. So, small sample size. I do like him being in AEW. And apparently he had been talking with AEW almost since day one after he was let go from WWE, and they were just finding the right time to bring him in. I don't know that this was it. I don't know that this wasn't it. Again, it's a small sample size, so we'll see. What are your thoughts?
I felt like his debut was underwhelming.
I agree. Now, part of that was just no fans. I think that's to be attributed to it.
I didn't really care how they brought him in the first place. Again, I agree with you. I'm not sold on Kip Sabian either. I don't think it's the talent thing for me, and more just the character in general.
He's bland. Yeah, I agree.
I think he has some wrestling ability. I just don't think that he strikes me as like a guy that I would ever be interested in. And so I thought like Miro coming in, like we had mentioned in past shows, I would have much rather see him come in and wreck shop on, a tag match or
just some kind of a run-in.
And make his debut that way and not really affiliate himself with anybody. And just kind of be that big dude that comes in and everybody's kind of intimidated by. If they wanted him to be face, which he's kind of giving face vibes right now, I don't know. To me, it's more face vibes. They could have introduced him into this Jon Moxley storyline where Jon Moxley made a call and got Rusev to be his tag partner for next week, or Miro. Let me call him by his appropriate name now. For next week against Lance Archer and Brian Cage and them. So, just my thoughts. I think they could have held off a little bit longer to introduce him in a better way. Not against the gimmick that he has. I think it's a little cheesy or not really well thought out. I think we could have came up with something better. But ultimately, I'm excited that he's doing something other than just Twitch. So
yeah, and what I find funny is just the world of wrestling can be just a large work. As far as like talent by talent, wrestler by wrestler, because Miro said, I don't know, a few weeks ago, maybe month and a half, however long ago it was, he said he was done with wrestling on Twitch, and everyone was just like, really? I mean, come on. Twitch can be a nice little revenue stream, but he's not going to make on Twitch what he would make in AEW or New Japan. Now, side topic, with AEW, or with his contract with AEW, he can also work New Japan. Do you think we might see Miro as this best man gimmick in AEW, but maybe we see a more brute, tough guy Miro in New Japan if he does go to New Japan?
I don't know. I'd be interested to see if he ever even goes to New Japan. I'm curious if he's wanting a lesser schedule, especially right now while his wife is in a separate company.
Right.
Wanting to make sure that he gets to be around her as much as he can as well there. So
sure.
Just looking at some of the comments here. I mean, we got a Miro Day comment already.
Of course we do.
So there's that. Michael says, I agree 100%. I'm not sold. Do you think this pairing is to boost Kip? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if the goal was like, hey, Miro, you're out there with Kip, and Kip, this is to help you. I think it was more like, where do we introduce you at? Oh, we can just throw you out there with Kip.
Well, and I hope so. I mean, because AEW is very much, at least whenever you're looking in terms of Dynamite, they don't really have, I'll rephrase it like this. They don't necessarily want anyone to be viewed as low card or mid card. I mean, hence, you've got Brody Lee, who's, at least if you watch BTE as well, Brody Lee is probably top 3, top guys in AEW right now in terms of wrestling and talent. He's a TNT champion, obviously. And I mean, he's got a lot of personality. He's super funny, and he doesn't come off that way on BTE. He tries to be serious, but it's all comedy. And the fact of the matter is, the TNT title, a lot of people want to say, well, that's their mid-card title. They're not really. AEW, I think, is trying to go the route of saying, okay, we're not going to view anybody as low card, mid card, or upper card, at least as it comes to an individual talent. Yes, you're going to have the first match on the card, the middle matches on the card, the main event, things like that. However, you're going to have times where last night. Your main event was Proud and Powerful against Best Friends. If you would have said 6 months ago those two tag teams are going to be main eventing a Dynamite, I would have said you're nuts.
Right.
But it just goes to show that AEW is really going the route of just this mindset of we're not going to view anyone as a spot on the card, because at any given time, at any given week, we could say, okay, Miro and Kip Sabian, you're going to be main eventing against SCU or something, not SCU, but
right.
They could pair them against Jurassic Express or FTR. They could,
right.
Just as kind of a one-off match, which AEW for the most part likes to focus on their storylines, but every so often we'll get a one-off match, which is fine. So all that to say, I do hope it's to boost Kip, because right now he needs it. I mean, he's one of the guys on the card that, we see regularly, but it doesn't seem like he's there yet.
Right.
Doug says Miro's going to floor Kip at his wedding and then steal his woman. I hope we don't get a rehash of the Lashley Lana stuff.
We know they're married. Like, let's not try to overdo the kayfabe thing in this regard. We know the dude's married. We know he's with Lana. Let's just leave it be.
Jeremy says Miro should just join the Dark Order.
Shouldn't everybody?
Dwayne says Lana will catch backlash from him joining AEW. I've actually read a story that Lana's not going to catch any backlash from this whatsoever.
If anything, she's benefiting from it because she's on TV right now.
Agreed. Tell you what, let's go to the next topic. What else we got? Let's go back to one of yours.
Well, you kind of mentioned it earlier. I read that this morning. Actually, I was enjoying my nice little podcast moment in my car right here, and I got a story that says that there is a new Wyatt family coming, and we've heard that, and we kept hearing rumors it'd be this person, and surely it'd be this person, but the rumor that I read today really makes a lot of sense. It puts a lot of prominent people on TV.
Right.
And it kind of creates some interest. So I want you guys to think about the current Fiend character. I want you to think about the current Bray Wyatt character. We already know that Alexa Bliss is headed in that direction to be Sister Abigail, or they're even hinting at maybe just calling her Sister Bliss. But she'll be that Sister Abigail type character. She's going to have a complete rebrand of what she looks like, and it's going to be a very creepy looking character. The next rumor person, and they said that these people will be introduced over several weeks. So every couple weeks, you'll see a new person joining the team or the family. The next person was Bo Dallas, actually. And here's the thing that I actually kind of enjoyed about hearing this part, is that Bo Dallas didn't really lack in-ring ability. We're talking about a guy who was NXT champion. We're talking about a guy that WWE saw a lot of potential in, that just flopped on the main roster because the gimmick was not main roster material.
One of the first of many that would go on to flop on the main roster.
I mean, look at AEW or not AEW, NXT early on. They had a lot of guys that blew up in NXT because the NXT crowd is easy to please, and maybe they didn't realize that at first. Because Big E is super talented, but his gimmick didn't translate to the main roster. They had to rebrand him for him to get over.
Right.
And so Bo Dallas, apparently they saw a lot in him, but his gimmick Bo Leave didn't really translate. And he didn't really find much success after that because he got shot down in such a way. So they're talking about bringing Bo Dallas in, and from the costume and kind of explanation, he kind of would have like an It character or a Joker type character, which I think actually he could do really well. Mm-hmm. So Bo Dallas has been rumored there. They've also rumored.
Well, real quick, what's funny is that there was an article that came out yesterday too. I think I read it on Ringside News that Bray actually considers Bo the better worker of the two, which I totally agree. I mean, if at least from an in-ring standpoint, if you watch their matches, Bo clearly has in-ring talent. It's just he like one of probably, I don't know, over the years, hundreds of guys that are talented from an in-ring standpoint, like very talented, that they're just underutilized.
Bray definitely is the better personality.
Oh, absolutely.
And I would say Bo is probably the better wrestler. And so I thought that was an interesting take because it puts Bo Dallas. He's actually still signed by WWE. I thought he was released, but
He's just been hanging around for months.
He literally is on their roster. I went and looked the other day. I was like, man, he is still there. So they're rebranding him. He'll come in. There's a rumor Braun Strowman will join them eventually and kind of be the muscle again. I'll believe that when I see it. I don't think they're going to go that route because of what I read this morning. And this one was really interesting, and it kind of shocked Alex when I said it as well. For those of you who don't know the name Christopher Park or Chris Parks, TNA, that was Abyss. And that gentleman works for WWE.
He was just in segments with AJ Styles recently.
In segments with AJ Styles. And there is a rumor out there that they could and potentially will. Vince McMahon is very high on wanting to use the Abyss character and introducing him in the Fiend's new Bray Wyatt family or whatever, the Wyatt family type gimmick. So don't know if they can use the Abyss name, but they could definitely use the Abyss character. I think Vince wants that because if you grew up like me watching the prominent parts of TNA and Impact, Abyss was one of those guys you really like to watch. And so being able to have him on the games and have the rights to his actual look and character is something Vince has always been about, trying to get other people's gimmicks and characters and having the rights to them. So I'm curious if Chris Parks is like, you know what, I'm at the end of my career. I'm not going to be doing this much longer, so I might as well take my character and allow it to retire on such a good term with the biggest company in the world for what we do. So would be really interested and very intrigued if they went that route. I would love to see the Abyss character used more than I think I would Braun Strowman returning as the muscle.
I agree, and just because it would be something new. I mean, we've seen Braun in the Wyatt family before. To be quite honest, I just, from Braun Strowman's standpoint and just his overall character, I just think he's kind of hit his plateau. I think he's hit his ceiling. I think he's gone as far as he's going to go. I think we've seen that, and unfortunately, it was too little, too late, and it was a Universal title run that was only just as a spot filler until Roman came back. So, I agree. I mean, if Abyss or whatever name they might put with it, we were talking about this before. I don't know if TNA owns the Abyss name, if it's trademarked or copyrighted or whatever, but if he comes back, I hope it's not as just a
supporting role.
Well, I hope it's not just as a character that we see in segments. Like, I hope he could actually have matches every so often.
Right.
I know he's getting up there in age. Obviously, he's taken a lot of bumps over the years. And so if he comes back, I hope we actually get to see him in matches and that he's not just there as kind of like a bodyguard or a manager kind of thing.
Right.
What do you guys have to say? Bonnie says having an actual creepy family with Bo, Alexa, and Willow would be real interesting, especially if they do a good booking storyline. Do you mean The Fiend?
Well, we were kind of talking about that earlier, with the Willow character. Like, that kind of a family setup would be something great for Jeff to feud with as Willow.
Right.
Feuding with the whole family as a whole. So,
let's tackle one more topic. Let's talk about the NXT title picture a little bit. So I did not get to watch NXT last night, but there is a Gauntlet #1 contender match. Is that next week?
I believe it's next week.
Okay.
I can't figure out if they announced the participants in that match.
I don't think they did yet, but let's backtrack a week. So Finn Balor won the title a week ago yesterday in what I still think has probably been the best match of pandemic era wrestling. If you've not watched it, or even if you have watched it, go back and watch it again. It's amazing because I thought going into that match that we won't be able to have and I'm using this term arbitrarily, but a 5-star match feel without fans. And they gave it to us and then some. I mean, they teased the near falls. They had Adam Cole kick out of the coup de grace, which no one has done. Well, they said no one's done that before. I could have sworn someone in WWE has done that, or maybe it was NXT. I could be wrong on that, but just start to finish, it was a wrestling match. It told a story. It had the ending that it should have, because I know NXT can sometimes overbook the near falls and the kick outs and things like that. They ended it with Cole's with Finn Balor's that inverted suplex brainbuster maneuver off the top. Why can't I think of the name of that? It's a 19 something.
1960 or 1920 or 1930.
It's a year. That's all I remember. Hold on, I got to look it up.
1930 maybe. If you know what comment, what's Finn Balor's name to his special?
1916.
1916. I was like, I know it's a year. I just can't remember.
Yeah, same here. But they ended it when they should have, with the 1916 off the top rope, and it was a phenomenal match. And going into it, there was a rumor that I want to say Brian Alvarez, he didn't start it, but he had heard that there was not going to be a clean finish. So a lot of people were going into the match thinking, okay, well, we're not going to have a clean winner. This is going to continue, but we got a good match. We got a clean winner. And I think it was the right move putting the belt on Balor. Again, because it's something not new, because he's held the NXT title before, but I felt like putting it back on Adam Cole would not have been the right thing to do. Now, that being said, Finn Balor is champion. We're going to have a gauntlet match next week. Assuming whoever we would pick to be number one contender is in this match, who would you pick?
Well, looking at I agree with you. First off, Finn Balor being the champion, I had been saying that since he came back, that I think it's a smart idea to put the belt on him, because there's so many matches that we haven't seen when it comes to Finn Balor as champion. And so if I'm guessing, they're going to put some up and coming stars in this gauntlet match that really have no chance of winning. Bronson Reed kind of sticks out as maybe one of those names that could be in that match.
Sorry, backtrack. Who did you say?
Bronson Reed.
Oh, you said Bronson Reed. I heard Braun Strowman for some reason.
No, Bronson Reed's probably in there. When they announced it on TV last night, they had Kushida's picture up there, like Kushida might be in the match. But for me, it doesn't look like it's going to happen. I would love to see Finn Balor versus Tommaso Ciampa. I think that has the quality, again, to have one of those 5-star matches during the pandemic era. When I think right now, who do I want Finn Balor to fight? I want Finn Balor to fight somebody who is going to give us that kind of match when we have it. Which there's, NXT takeovers coming up at some point. That's probably what they're going to build towards at some point, is a storyline towards that. So for me, probably Tommaso Ciampa, although they're kind of pushing like a Jake Atlas storyline with him right now. So I don't know if that'll happen. But I wouldn't even mind seeing an up-and-coming star. Like if it's Dexter Lumis, because I think Finn could elevate Dexter Lumis. So there's a couple of names up there. Velveteen Dream might be in that picture as well. So they got some guys that are kind of just sitting around doing kind of nothing right now. So, but I think for me, the number one guy I want to see Finn fight is Tommaso Ciampa.
I selfishly, and you said it already, I selfishly want it to be Kushida, just because I know they'd have a great match. I know they can put on a great match, because they've done it in New Japan. Whenever Balor was Prince Devitt, they had matches over the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title. And I know they could have even better matches, because they've got the in-ring experience. If you give them 30 minutes and just say, go out there, do your thing, they can put on a great match. 2, that could elevate Kushida to what WWE, I'm assuming, saw in him whenever they hired him, whenever they brought him in.
Right.
Like you said, he's just been kind of floundering and doing nothing for pretty much his entire NXT run since they brought him in.
Right.
I was very skeptical that they would try to have him as their NXT Cruiserweight title holder. That Side note, I don't feel like anybody can elevate that NXT Cruiserweight title. I just feel like that anytime WWE does a Cruiserweight title, of any kind, it just kind of
falls flat.
It falls flat, and they try to revive what WCW had back in the day with their cruiserweight title picture. That was special because that was the innovation of that high-flying style that we see today outside of a cruiserweight division. But that's just it. They want to box it up, so to speak, into a cruiserweight division, and no one's really interested in just seeing it centralized in a cruiserweight division. I think people in general are just sour on lighter weight divisions all throughout sports, not just wrestling, but pro wrestling, amateur wrestling, MMA. People want to see those the bigger guys, the larger than life guys, and so I just think that having a match with Balor and Kushida could really push and elevate Kushida into a role that could eventually lead to SmackDown or Raw, and at least, maybe a mid-card title run or a tag title run or something like that. I don't ever envision him holding a WWE Universal title. But, they could try to do with him what they attempted with Ricochet. And actually, I felt like it was pretty successful with Ricochet, and for whatever reason, they just completely dropped it. So,
I do want to throw one more name in the hat for that because it just came to me. It's the match we never got, and it could be Walter.
Ooh.
And I don't know if he could get back into the country or not, or if he is in the country. But maybe they do a champion versus champion match around Clash of Champions time. They could, it's not unlike them to put an NXT title match on a WWE card. So they could potentially look at doing that. So maybe Walter is in that picture as well in this gauntlet match as a surprise entrance. And we could get the Finn Balor-Walter match that we never got.
That's almost so a lot of our NXT takeovers are more of a marquee takeover that they have with like a WrestleMania or a SummerSlam or a Royal Rumble Survivor Series, one of the big four. That's almost a big four type takeover match.
But you need those right now. You need those during this time. You can't wait. Sometimes you can't wait for the match to happen. In this regard, where ratings are going down, that's a match that people will tune in to see.
Yeah, I do think the hardcore fans would be more inclined to buy or renew their subscription to the network if they knew they were getting a Balor and Walter match on a takeover. So we'll see. All right, guys. Real quick, what do you guys say? Ricardo says Cole versus Balor match was phenomenal. Jeremy agrees with you. He says he thinks it'd be Ciampa. Bonnie says Bronson Reed would be good. Billy agrees with you. Finn versus Ciampa would be awesome. Matt says the smaller guys in MMA put on better fights. They do. They have better matches in pro wrestling. But I know I'm just making a point that a lot of people want to see those heavyweight/heavyweight title matches and things like that. Balor versus Walter, sign it, says Ricardo Productions. Okay, let's see. We're going to move on to our next segment. How did we do with time on that one?
Not too bad. We have a little bit of buffer between each one, so we're not doing too shabby. Probably about 5-10 minutes over. But
okay, guys, the next segment we're going to do is our wrestler of the week. So Cole and I, we basically pick a wrestler that we felt was the made the most, no pun intended, made the most impact for this past week. So I'm going to give the floor to you first.
So I have been wrestling with this all week because this is hard.
I can confirm he literally was. He was going back and forth, like even as the countdown was rolling as we were going live.
Because we're not just saying wrestler of WWE this week or AEW. We're talking about wrestling as a whole. Like if I was to go to a local show and I was like Bobby, whatever his name is.
This is the world of pro wrestling.
This is what our show's about. So this is so hard to pick. And literally right before the countdown, I changed my answer. So I will tell you that initially I was going to go with Keith Lee, but my answer this week is MVP. And here is why. that moment with the Hurt Business coming out to
I thought
fight
you were going to say John Cena, and I was going to put
John Cena. No, MVP. So here's the thing, MVP, the Hurt Business coming out to fight Retribution. That moment was just cool, and you don't get those moments as much anymore these days, like you did back in maybe 10, 15 years ago, where there's just that special moment when someone's music hits and you're like, yes, I'm ready for this. And when the Hurt Business came out to fight Retribution, I had that feeling. I had that, dang, they actually look like they can take down Retribution. And so, and then I saw a picture right before as the countdown was going down of MVP, and it was breaking down what MVP has done. I was like, dude, this dude is actually killing it right now and has been a huge help during the pandemic era. You had Ricochet and Cedric Alexander sitting on the sidelines doing nothing. You had Apollo Crews being pretty much treated like an enhancement talent. You had Bobby Lashley running around with Lana in a stupid love storyline. And you had Shelton Benjamin doing nothing but 24/7 title runs every other month. All these guys were doing nothing. MVP comes in and he makes Bobby Lashley United States champion. He makes Ricochet and Apollo Crews relevant without even them joining the Hurt Business. He makes Shelton Benjamin relevant. And actually, Shelton Benjamin looks good. He looks like he did 5, 6, 7 years ago.
I selfishly want him to get back in the ring and have the matches that
it's
he
coming.
did back then.
I think it's even coming still, because MVP being the mouthpiece, being the guy that can just talk on a mic, knowing that he's in his latter years, can still put on a match. I don't know if I would say it's amazing, but he's not so bad that it ruins the match. But he has taken all these guys and made them relevant in a time where it's hard to be relevant. And so I changed my answer. MVP this week. You killed it, bro. You've been killing it. Superstar of the week.
I've touched on mine already, and mine will be quick just because I've talked about it. Mine's Finn Balor. He and Adam Cole put on a phenomenal match. Again, no pun intended. I encourage you guys, whether you've watched it already or if you have not watched it, especially if you've not watched it, go watch it. It's a great match, and there's only so much that anyone could say about any wrestling match whenever they say, okay, you need to go watch this. Like, no, you need to go watch this. It is, in my opinion, and it's not even close, the best match of any brand since the COVID pandemic started. So because of that, because he's NXT champion, Finn Balor's my wrestler. We saying wrestler or superstar of the week? I'm just saying wrestler because I always hated the term superstar, but
Call it whatever you want to call it. Same thing.
He's my wrestler of the week. So I'll tell you what, guys. What do you guys have to say? Travis says MVP can still sell a match. Dwayne, I don't know if this is his superstars of the week, but he says Braun, and I'm assuming he means Kato with the Raw Underground stuff.
Yeah.
Pal Opus says MVP should push his vision for the Hurt Business to expand not only on Raw but also on SmackDown and NXT. That'd be interesting. He would have like a
cross-branded.
He'd have a cross-branded. That's an interesting
concept. Yeah,
I like that, having a cross-branded stable. Huh. Pal Opa, you should be booking for WWE.
That's a great look. Great.
Bonnie says, I like how MVP is slowly growing his group, keeping the show interesting. Okay. All right. Let's go on to our next segment here. So we're gonna do a flip the script segment. This one might not be an every week segment, but this one we're going to pick a couple of storylines, maybe one or two a piece between Cole and I, and basically kind of play fantasy booker. So we're going to say, rather than have this happen, like, so for example, going back to All Out, and I'm gonna kind of open for one of Cole's flipping the script. Going back to All Out, we saw something happened, but Cole's going to tell you how he thinks it should have happened and why.
I am pulling it up because I actually forgot what I said.
Kenny and
Yes.
Hangman.
So my first one here is this. I would have had Kenny turn on Hangman Page at All Out. And if you watched All Out, it was an underwhelming card. A lot of things happened that just made it feel less than their normal, at least. And so I felt like this would have just amplified the card. It would have really brought everything back to a high note, especially where it was placed in the card. You had Kenny go and grab what looked like a TV tray, or I don't know what it was. And it looked like he was getting ready to hit Kenny with, or hit Hangman Page with it, and then sets it down and leaves. And now, like, even looking at the storyline now, it's just kind of like, we know there's problems, but we're just focused on singles wrestling and, yada, yada. Like, there's really nothing to it. And I think you just would have had this really wow shock factor if you just have him go 180, cleaner type Kenny, and just literally beat the tar out of Hangman Page and set up for some single storyline there. So for me, if I could flip the script, I think that would have brought that story out a little bit more. I think it would have made it a prominent story. It would have made wrestling headline news, and it would have helped All Out be better than what All Out was.
Yeah, we talked about this previously, that pulling an audible at any given point in the pay-per-view is something that Tony Khan should have done. I'm not saying he didn't consider it, but that's going to lead to my next one is because of the pay-per-view, because at this point in the pay-per-view, you just had a lot of stuff go wrong. You had botches. You had now I'll say this: if you've not watched Being the Elite, they have a fantastic storyline explanation for Matt Seidel's botch. I won't play spoiler, but go watch Being the Elite from this past Monday, and it's hilarious. I mean, it's fantastic. But my flip the script is they should have just put the AEW World Title on MJF. At this point in the pay-per-view, again, you've had botches. You've had stuff go wrong. You've had to pull audibles you had to pull an audible already with the Matt Hardy and Sammy Guevara match. That might have been the planned ending, but they had to pull an audible and say, okay, we're going to do this now and not risk further injury to Matt Hardy. Again, you had the Matt Sydal botch. You had the tag match the tag title match that went far too long, in my opinion. Apparently I said this on last week's podcast, a lot of people actually did like that match. I didn't. And don't get me wrong. I mean, hence my shirt. I've got my old school Arn and Tully Brainbuster shirt. I'm a fan of old school tag team wrestling. I'm a fan of FTR. Cole, not so much, but that's okay. I wasn't a fan of the match. I'm a fan of old school tag team wrestling. I don't feel like that this was it. I feel like there was a lot of uncertainty, a lot of confusion in the match. It felt very slow at times. And at this point in the pay-per-view, you need to say, if you're Tony Khan, you need to say, okay, John, MJF, we need to save this pay-per-view. So here's what we're going to do. Even if it's just for shock factor, MJF, we're going to put the belt on you. We'll figure this all out later in terms of how to rewrite the storyline, how to press forward with all storylines in general, because if you put the belt on MJF, it completely transitions away from what they're trying to do with Moxley and Archer. It transitions from this MJF teasing to form a new stable or join a new stable. Figure that out later and just say, MJF, we're going to put you over. You're going to get the win on Moxley. It doesn't have to be a clean win. It could just be, we're going to have Wardlow do something. We're going to have Wardlow do something, or you're going to, hit him with a chair. I don't know. If you're AEW, you got to figure it out. And if I'm flipping the script, MJF walks out of All Out as AEW champion.
So I got another flip the script for you. And I shared this with Alex in our little chat message that we have. I would have had Dominic Mysterio win over Seth Rollins in that cage match. Whether it was clean or if, Ray was kind of involved and allowed Dominic at least to escape the cage in some form or fashion, I would have flipped the script. You could have had Murphy turn on Rollins and help Dominic out of the cage because Seth was being Seth about it. There is a storyline that's out there right now that says Seth Rollins is getting ready to take a hiatus. His baby is due in December. And so Becky Lynch is at a point in the pregnancy where she might need him a little bit more. He might want to be around, especially with COVID. She'll have to quarantine in some ways, which means he won't be able to be around with how much he's around other people. So I read this thing that he's going to take this hiatus. What better way than to put Dominic Mysterio over? What better way than if we just put Dominic Mysterio in the main event on Raw in a steel cage match against Seth Rollins. Mm-hmm. Obviously, they're big on Dominic. You don't get that spot if Vince doesn't see something in you.
Well, there's a video that came out after his match at SummerSlam with, Vince, him and Dominic are hugging, and Vince essentially says that, you should be very proud of yourself because getting any kind of a reaction, crowd or not, like he did, is something that's special, and he should be very proud of that, which is true. I wholeheartedly agree with Vince McMahon on that one. If you can generate any response from a crowd, whether you're a face, whether you're a heel, whether you're getting cheered or booed, if you can generate any kind of response for the crowd, that is your job as a professional wrestler as you're going to or leaving the ring, or actually in ring as well. But the fact that he was able to get a response, he's going in the right direction. So
he obviously has some growth to do, and I think everybody realizes that. But who doesn't? There are several wrestlers on the main roster that I think we all could agree, yeah, dude, you need a little bit of growth. Or yeah, even females, you need some growth. Mm-hmm. I'm not really mad that Dominic didn't have to run NXT to get on the main roster. It doesn't really bother me. He had a really nice spot in the Buddy Murphy street fight where he slid through the ring like Ray and threw Murphy through a table. I think there are some bright spots in him. But yeah, my flip the script would have been, let's have him win this cage match. I don't think he needs to win clean by hitting a frog splash on Seth and pinning him, but you could have had him escape the cage in some way, had Murphy turn, had Ray help him, his sister, his mom, somebody, let there be a distraction that allows him to win. And I think it would have set Dominic up for whatever's next on his agenda, and it would have set Seth up to be like, okay, now I take my hiatus.
I think what would have been the best way to go about this is so you had Dominic and Seth at SummerSlam. That was match number 1. Put them in a second match. Maybe it's a gimmick match, maybe it's not, I don't know. But still have Seth go over on the second match, then have them wrestle a third match inside of a cage, and then at that point you can put Dominic over but still not necessarily have him get a pinfall on Seth. Now at that point you could, if Seth has already gotten a couple of wins over Dominic, and the third win maybe Dominic gets a pinfall on Seth, that's fine. But if you're WWE and you don't want to go that route, you could still have Dominic get the W, like you said, by escaping or going out the door of the cage or climbing over the top. I think that with what they're doing, I'd be shocked if they don't have a third match. That's why I say all of that.
Right.
Let's see. We're at 10 till 10 Central Time right now. I think we're gonna stop on the flip the script for right now. What do you guys have to say? We had Dennis saying, "Yeah, I could have seen Murphy betraying Seth. Would have been a mild shock, but still a shock." Dwayne says, "I think that." Okay, is it pronounced Alia or Leah? I'm bad with pronouncing names, but however, that storyline with her and Murphy love interest is going to be stupid. Yeah, Thomas says there's a rumor floating around that Murphy and Ray's daughter are going to end up in an on-screen relationship. Pal Opa says he doesn't know if he's the only one, but he doesn't want to see it. I'm over the love storylines too at this point, especially the longer that you've been watching professional wrestling. It's just been overdone. It never really goes over well, at least with the old school fans. I don't know from the perspective of, let's say, a viewer has been watching pro wrestling for 5 years, 10 years, whatever. Maybe they get something out of it. Maybe they enjoy it. If that's the case, then great. But I'm not on board with it personally.
The only thing I could see coming out of this is continuing Dominic versus Murphy. where Murphy's kind of tugging on the hearts of Dominic's sister. Dominic doesn't like it. And then they fight, and maybe his sister turns on him or eventually turns on Murphy. So that's the only reason why I can see them doing it. I'm actually kind of shocked that Ray's okay with that and is kind of, going along with that storyline. I don't think it's necessarily a good fit in a sense for either of them. And I think that this storyline with Dominic and Murphy and Rollins should be over, and we should push Dominic in a different way, a different storyline, now that he has had a prominent role on Raw week to week. So
I agree. Real quick, guys.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
I want to let you guys know that you can check out the Going Broadway podcast. We have new shows every Thursday on our Facebook and YouTube channel. We are live every Thursday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central Time. So you can check us out on Facebook, check us out on YouTube. All of our shows are archived as well, so you can go back and watch any one of them, any of the prior 51 episodes, as well as other short videos that I've done here and there. So you can check those out anytime. Hopefully we get Apple and Google Podcasts back up and going, get those updated, because I know a lot of you guys like to listen as opposed to watch, and we appreciate that. Hopefully we can get that going fairly soon. Please, if you've not already, check us out on social media. Please like our Facebook page. We are at facebook.com/Going Broadway Podcast. Please like that page. Please give us a follow on Twitter. We are at twitter.com/Going BRDWI Pod, or you can just type in our Twitter handle at Going BRDWI Pod. Please follow us on Instagram. The handle's the same there, at Going BRDWI Pod as well. And check us out on our YouTube channel. Give us a subscribe at goingbroadwaypodcast.com/YouTube. Scrolling across the bottom of your screen right now, we are also on Patreon, patreon.com/Going Broadway Podcast. If you would consider becoming one of our paid patrons, there are exclusive perks and benefits to becoming one of our paid patrons. We have 4 different tiers: bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. It ranges anywhere from $5 to a $50 per month commitment. Each has, again, their own benefits. So check that out. We still plan on doing our 3-belt giveaway, just so you guys know. We still got to get to 5,000 Facebook likes and 1,000 Twitter followers. We've already hit our marks for YouTube and Instagram. We sincerely appreciate it. Once we get to those numbers, we're going to do our 3-belt giveaway. That means one person will win, not 1, not 2, but 3 championship belts. They are already selected by me. They're going to stay a mystery until the winner receives them. It is up to them if they want to reveal what they are or not. I always encourage our winners to post their winnings on social media. That being said, going back to our Patreon page, part of the perks and benefits include receiving additional entries into that 3-belt giveaway drawing. So if that's something you're interested in, again, check that out. Patreon.com/Going Broadway Podcast. Some of the perks and benefits also include our shirts. You can get discounts for purchases on our t-shirts or hoodies. I believe the platinum tier, actually, you can get a free one. I'm not sure if I'm mistaken on that. Again, check out the Patreon page. I honestly forgot off the top of my head. But if you're not one of our patrons, but you would like to purchase a t-shirt or a hoodie, the t-shirts our Alex Cole Bebe t-shirts are $25 shipped plus applicable taxes. Our hoodies are $50 shipped plus applicable taxes. That is for domestic United States shipping only. If you live in Alaska, Hawaii, or otherwise internationally, there would be an additional shipping fee that you would incur. So get your Alex Cole Bebe t-shirts, get your Alex Cole Bebe hoodies. It's almost hoodie season, you guys. So you want to be rocking these. These hoodies are very comfortable, by the way. Yes, actually, the t-shirts are as well. So if you're interested in any of those, let me know, and we'll get you hooked up. So let's move on to our next segment. So this is going to be a fun one for you guys, for the viewer. We're going to do unpopular opinions. So Cole and I have 5 minutes apiece to discuss any of our unpopular opinions. More than likely, if we only have 5 minutes apiece, we might only be able to discuss one or two at a time. So, tell you what, it is 9:55. Cole, you can have the floor first. You have until 10 a.m. to discuss your unpopular opinion or opinions.
All
Go.
right. So number one is this. MJF is not champion material currently. And Alex is talking about in his switch to his flip the script that he would have put the belt on him. I 100% disagree. And I've been seeing everybody talk about how MJF is championship material. He's the guy that should put the belt on him. I am not ready for an MJF champion. I don't think he is ready himself. I think he's decent, but I cannot think of a MJF memorable match where I was like, yep, that was the match. And so I don't think he's ready. I'm interested to see what they do with this stable thing. Could be the lead of a four horsemen with him and FTR and starting to build that faction. Who knows? But my first unpopular opinion is this. MJF is not championship, main champion material. I could see TNT. I could see a tag run with him and Wardlow or whatever, but not champion material.
Hold on real quick. I should have prefaced by saying if you put the bet on MJF at All Out, it's just a quick,
yes,
just as a shock factor, get it on him and then get it off. Continue.
Secondly, I have 3 minutes left. Secondly, FTR should not be tag champions in AEW. All right, listen, hear me out, please. The best tag team in the world has not been tag team champions in AEW, and that is the Young Bucks. All right? You do not have to bring FTR in and put the belts on them. They could have feuded with tag teams. They could have had longer, prominent storylines with the Young Bucks and kept them. You have so many tag teams that deserve to be tag champions. The Jurassic Express. I like Proud and Powerful. I think that they should have had a shot. Best Friends.
Lucha Bros.
The Lucha Bros. Yeah, I mean, I could keep going on and on. There are so many actual tag teams in AEW, and you bring FTR in and off the jump put the belts on them. You had the belts on Kenny and Paige, and although they weren't bad, they weren't even really a tag team. They kind of got paired together and said, here you go. And I'm saying you have all these other tag teams that are killing it, that are great. You put them on TV every week. And then I'm like, even the lace sex gods would have been better than some of these, because I'm at the point where I'm like, you have all these tag teams that are great and should be paired together and done, and you put the belts on FTR, and I'm sorry, I don't think they're that exciting to watch. I don't think that they put on matches that make me want to watch that match. I was very underwhelmed with the Kenny Omega Page match, and most of the bright spots in that match to me fell on Kenny Omega and Page. I don't think FTR wowed me in any way in that match again. And I even told Alex and Austin before the show, I was like, I hope this is the match that they wow me, especially if they win the belts. I hope this is the match that they wow me. And at the end, I was like, nope, it didn't happen. And so I am at the point now where I am ready to see a tag division that is as talented as theirs be led by a great tag team that can put on 5-star match, whether it's the Lucha Bros, Jurassic Express, the Young Bucks, whoever it is. I don't think FTR should be the tag champions at this point in time on AEW. I concede the rest of my time to Alex.
Okay, fair enough. Tell you what, we'll take the extra time and read some comments. Let's see. You actually have a lot of people that agree with you. Back to your MJF. Dwayne says, I agree with that. I hate MJF. Michael says his character is championship material. His talent, probably not. Thomas says MJF is TNT champion. I'd be fine with. Michael says Bucks is champions. Ricardo agrees with you. FTR should not be tag champs. Michael says, I think Best Friends should be champions and go over FTR. That's interesting. David says Bucks won't be champs due to being office guys. At some point, they're going to give them a run with the belts. It's inevitable. Dennis says the Young Bucks aren't AEW tag team champions. What in the world? Pal Opa says, my unpopular opinion, Omega should be AEW champion and the Bucks should be tag champions. They're going to give Omega a run with the AEW title at some point as well. Dwayne says he thinks the Bucks will take the titles. He says take the titles next, so I'm assuming you mean take them off FTR. Dwayne says Moxley needs to start or join a stable. Dennis says everyone will be fine if the Bucks win them as long as their reign isn't too long. Thomas says he's a major Luchasaurus fan. You don't have to be sorry for that. There are a lot of people that are.
Yeah.
Our buddy Austin loves Luchasaurus.
Yep.
So, okay, my time is probably going to be my entire 5 minutes is probably going to be taken by one unpopular opinion. I'm sick of people that want to group, or that's not the right word, that want to say that AEW is just the breeding ground for prior WWE wrestlers. Here's my logic on that. If you look at any other profession that's out there, let's just take my profession, for instance. So prior to working at my current job, so I do accounting, finance outside of our podcast. Prior to working at my job now, I worked at Boeing for 4 years. Now, let's look at it from a competitor standpoint. I leave Boeing. Boeing has multiple competitors out there from an airline standpoint as well as a defense and weapons and all that stuff standpoint. So if I leave Boeing, does that mean that I'm precluded from going to, let's say, an Airbus as far as commercial airlines, or from going to a Lockheed Martin company that rivals Boeing in terms of that defense and weapons and space capabilities and all that stuff? No, it doesn't. Now, if you look at the world of wrestling, that has even less options than I do as far as companies that I could work for. If you're a wrestler that is left WWE, whether it is by your own volition or your own choice, whether you got released, whether you chose not to re-sign, if you want to go somewhere else and make the same money, if not more, than what you did in WWE, what are your options right now? AEW is it. You can't go anywhere else and make the same amount of money. You won't make the same amount of money in New Japan Pro Wrestling. You might have the same fan base, but you're not going to make the same income that you did in WWE. Pure and simple. For fans that want to say, well, AEW is just where WWE guys go to finish their careers or whatever, what difference does it make where they go? What difference does it make where they continue to pursue their career, if they're in the twilight of the career, if they're in the peak of their career? It doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is, you don't have a lot of options if you are a pro wrestler to make the same amount of money outside of WWE if you're leaving WWE. If AEW wants to put a belt on you, so what? That is their choice. That means that they see something in you. That means that they see dollar signs. That means they see a bunch of zeros at the end of their balance sheet at the end of the year. That's what it comes down to, is that it's a business, plain and simple. I didn't go my entire 5 minutes. Let's see. That must have been a very unpopular opinion, because I don't see a whole lot of rebuttals on that.
Michael agrees with you.
Yeah. Michael says, I agree. It drives me crazy. WWE fans on Twitter drive me crazy. And that's, I should have caveated by saying that is a lot of what WWE fans say. I mean, I've said at the beginning of the show, I've said it previously, I'm not as on board with WWE as far as a recent product in its entirety as I am with AEW. But I just presented an argument that is completely 100% valid. It has nothing to do with my distaste for WWE. So
it is crazy how, I mean, so here's the thing, guys. We get a lot of these opinions from a lot of the wrestling groups that we're in. We see what people type. We see what, neither of us are so active that we are always putting our opinions on those pages. We like to save them for our show and discuss them.
Right.
But we get these viewpoints from these wrestling groups, and we see a vast majority of arguments of like the AEW marks versus the WWE marks. And I think Alex and I can both fairly say that we're not really a mark for either company or any company. We really just want to see wrestling be wrestling. Mm-hmm. And so we see a lot of these arguments where like, all these WWE guys are just going to AEW, and AEW is not pushing their own talent. I'm like, are you kidding me? Look at how many of those guys have prominent roles on TV. Just because they're not the champion does not mean that they're not being pushed. And I love what Alex said earlier in our show is that they don't really have a mid-card picture or a low-card picture. They have a picture that they're trying to paint, that they're trying to make happen. And so I think there are a lot of people maybe that aren't watching the show that would disagree with Alex's opinion and thinks that the AEW is not where WWE guys should be and yada, yada, yada. But I think those who really care about wrestling, which we are very thankful for the fan base that we have, is that a lot of you guys care about the wrestling product, not WWE's product or AEW's product or Impact. We care about the wrestling product, and I think that's why maybe everyone's kind of more like, yeah, I can see where your point is.
And the fact of the matter is, you know, with the quote unquote WWE marks out there, I think a lot of it is attributed to the fact that they want to support their brand, but they can also kind of see the writing on the wall that AEW is legit competition from the standpoint of and Pal Opa actually just said it. They want AEW because it has more creative freedom when it comes to cutting their promos. AEW is actually, this is just my opinion. I mean, people might disagree, but AEW is more entertaining when it comes to promos because they're giving their talent the creative freedom to essentially say what they want. Within reason, obviously, but the WWE marks that are out there don't want to concede to the fact that there are certain aspects of AEW that are better than WWE. There are things that WWE does better than AEW. You know, we've said that before. For example, the whole pulling the audible thing when it's necessary during a Raw, during a SmackDown, during a pay-per-view. They've done it before. They're better at that and, you know, pass the bravery test, for lack of a better way of putting it, than AEW does. They're better at that. It goes back to what we've said for months and months since we started this podcast. Watch what you like to watch. Don't watch what you don't like to watch. Be happy we have what we have during this pandemic. And just enjoy it. You know, don't make it worse for other people on social media because you're a couch potato fan. That's not the right. What am I looking for? I can't think of it. There's a funny term I'm trying to think of, but armchair. There we go. Just because you're an armchair fan, you know, with a computer or a phone in front of you, doesn't make you Vince McMahon. Right. It doesn't make you Tony Khan. It doesn't make you, you know, any booker or anybody in creative. Doesn't give you the right to just trash someone because their opinion differs than yours. So, what are you guys saying? Let's see. DJ Jesse Lee says, I agree wrestlers have to come from somewhere. Billy says, I agree. Dwayne says it doesn't matter where you go, it's your choice. Dwayne says it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Thomas says a typical online fan will whine about everything. Billy says wrestling should be wrestling. Thomas says, me personally, I don't want to see Luke Harper in AEW if they're just
I think he means Rowan.
Yeah. Is Brody. Yeah, I was about ready to say, if they're just going to put him with Brody, I believe the length of time the WWE has them together would sour anything AEW would do with them. Jeremy says wrestling should be wrestling, but WWE wants to do everything it can to steer away from a core wrestling product. Dwayne says promos are way better in AEW. So, that being said, we have a fun little segment that is for you guys. So, hang on. Sorry about that. My headphones came disconnected. For the next 15 minutes, we're going to tackle questions from you guys. So you can ask us anything you'd like. You can ask questions to us. You can ask us what we think about the wrestling product in general, what you might foresee happening, and get our thoughts on it. So ask us anything you want for the next, I'll give it 15 minutes or so. You know, we'll answer your guys' questions. And this will probably be a weekly segment just because we want to keep you guys involved. Even though we're going the route of having segments, which I hope you guys are enjoying, we want you guys to be as interactive with us as well. So throw in some questions, at us, and we'll get to those as we see fit. If we think it's maybe too silly of a question, sorry in advance, but we'll probably go past it. Okay, DJ Jesse Lee asks one. I was hoping someone would ask this. So there have been the rumors that NXT might change nights. Should NXT stay? I think he might have asked this because it was on Tuesday last week. Should NXT stay on Tuesday / should it move to Tuesday? Do you want to tackle this one first?
Mine's a pretty quick answer.
Okay.
Selfishly, I wish they would switch nights, just because I want to watch them the same night. The hardest thing is that as a wrestling fan, as Alex and I just discussed, we like wrestling, and I want to be able to watch both shows. And it's really hard on a Wednesday night to try to get NXT and AEW in, which typically, I think Alex can agree, we end up watching one or the other. It's hard to get both in and actually be able to enjoy them where we're not just trying to skip through it or rush through it so we know what happens to stay current on storylines. It's more like I want to be able to sit down and actually enjoy the storyline or the show. So for me, being able to watch Raw on Monday nights, being able to watch NXT on Tuesday nights, AEW on Wednesday nights, the freedom to watch Impact on Thursday nights, and have Friday Night SmackDown. You have wrestling every day of the week versus 2 shows on the same night, and it's not fun to try to get both of those in.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm kind of over the whole Wednesday Night War thing. I mean, it's just the difference between the Wednesday Night War and the original Monday Night War is you had Nitro and Raw that were garnering ratings in the 4s and the 5s, and it's like Dynamite and NXT can't even consistently get I guess it would be the equivalent of a 1.0, which is 1 million viewers. So to me, it's just like, it's kind of like beating a dead horse. It's like, great, you guys are both getting, might be averaging 800,000 viewers every week. If it's not a substantial viewership on either end, then just give the wrestling fans a choice and say, okay, NXT is going to move to Tuesday nights. Dynamite can stay on Wednesdays, and everybody's happy. Now, right. I don't know if it's a pride thing on McMahon's end because he doesn't want to move it to Tuesday nights, but the fact of the matter is the USA Network does. USA Network is the one that approached McMahon actually months ago to say, we want to move this to Tuesday nights because we feel like that would be a better time slot for us as a network. We also, and this was kind of their approach, we also feel it would be a better fit for you guys because you would be competing with Dynamite. Now, if they move to Tuesdays, I believe they'd be competing with Impact. Is that right? Is that on Tuesday nights?
Impact's either Tuesdays or Thursdays. I think it is Tuesday. So
now I say competing. I use that term loosely because I still I don't know what Impact's what they're drawing, what their ratings are, but my guess is it's probably not much more than 200,000-300,000.
The problem with Impact is that they're on a not as prominent TV channel,
right?
So it's not. I can't watch Impact on TV.
Yeah, DJ Jesse Lee says Impact is on Tuesday, so they would be sort of competing, but that's an interesting topic in itself. We won't go there, but if NXT moves to Tuesdays, we might want to explore. Does that mean Impact would switch nights? And if not, do you think that might be the beginning of the end for Impact? Again,
right.
that's a topic for another time.
Right.
Why don't you pick out a question?
Well, let's just keep going. I'm looking at Facebook here, and Dwayne Young asked, do y'all think Dominic will get a title push? Mine's a quick answer. At the moment, no. I don't think Dominic is in, unless it's a tag team push with Ray, which I could see, actually, because I think Ray has the dream to be tag champs with his son before he retires. And as you can see, Ray's constantly getting hurt here more recently. So his body's kind of going through some wear and tear. So I could see that next prominent storyline being Dominic getting a title push as tag champs with his dad. Other than that, I don't think Dominic's ready to be Intercontinental Champion or United States Champion. And if he's not ready to do that, he's clearly not ready to be World Title Champion either. So for me, I think the only title I could see is the tag belts. Don't even put him in a 24/7 picture. Keep him relevant. So I would say tag belts only.
I would have approached the question to Dwayne and say, when you say title push, do you mean a WWF or Universal title picture? If that's the case, then absolutely not. I think he is far from that. Yes, he's had matches with Seth, but that's just really been by association only. Now, that's not to say he's not talented, because he is. I mean, I would not be shocked if he's in the top 3 voting for whenever, PWI and Wrestling Observer, whoever does their awards at the end of the year, if he's in the top 3 as far as Rookie of the Year.
Right.
Now, that being said, I agree with Cole. I don't even think he's mid-card title picture yet. I know at least I have almost preached ad nauseum that we want to see something new. We want to see something fresh. Well, the caveat to that is it needs to make sense.
Yeah.
It needs to be believable. And I just don't see, for example, I don't see necessarily, I don't see Dominic winning a mid-card title picture. Now, that being said, I'm briefly just not changing topics. I'm saying this to make a point. Next week, on Dynamite, we're getting Brody Lee versus Orange Cassidy for the TNT title. Putting the TNT title on Orange Cassidy would make sense because he's over. Fans love Orange Cassidy. I'm not saying makes sense from a standpoint that, the in-ring talent is not there, because with Dominic it is. But he's still got stuff he's got to work on. He's still got some figuring out to do with his not personality, just with his overall persona and how he can appeal to WWE fans to increase his fan base first before you put a belt on him. I think the only way he gets any kind of a belt, any kind of a title put on him, I agree, is if he, for whatever reason, gets a tag title run with Ray. I don't even see that happening, though. So My answer is no. Let's tackle another question. Let's see. Okay, Pal Opa. I don't have a quick answer. Rewind. I don't have a quick answer to this, but we'll discuss. Where do you think WWE would tape their Raw and SmackDown when the Thunderdome contract expires? I think one of two things are going to happen. One, they're going to renew the contract, or they're going to explore what's going on with the pandemic overall. Because inevitably they want to do the same thing AEW is doing. They want to use an open air arena, and they want to stay in the South. So that essentially means they need to find an open air arena that's kind of like an amphitheater. So it's going to have a roof on it. Which I don't know if you guys noticed or not, but Jacksonville had some pretty intense storms last night, but you didn't see it on camera. Do you know why that is? Because it was taped. But even so, they would have still been able to have it because they have a roof or an overhang or whatever, but it's still open air. So you would have, noticed the lightning off and on and things like that. So there are certain logistics that have to be factored in if WWE goes to an open air arena. They're going to have to work it out with whatever city they go into. I don't know off the top of my head in the South what similar venues are there. What similar venues there are to Daly's Place, what's available. Ultimately, I think their Thunderdome contract, I think, expires later this year, if I'm not mistaken. I think they're going to try to work out an extension because I think they want to stick with the interactive fan experience they have going on, but long term, I'm hoping it's not too long term because ultimately I like to have live fans in closed venues. But if this if this pandemic continues, ultimately they're going to do the same thing that AEW does, go to an open air venue like a Daly's Place, like an amphitheater, something of that nature. But I don't think that would happen until maybe the spring, possibly next summer, if we're not back to live fans by then.
I think you've covered it pretty well. I think WWE right now likes the Thunderdome idea because it's just safe. Like as you said, the morale went up when that happened, and it creates something versus nothing as far as fans. It is interesting to see what like NFL is doing right now. Most of those arenas are allowing like 15,000 people in or something like that. So there is an interesting idea there, as well as maybe they can start booking some shows in a few different states and kind of tour the states that have outdoor arenas and maybe look at that venue, as well as getting back to being on the road and booking venues in the cities that they want to go to, maybe that are not the typical venue to book at, but you also don't get to bring as many fans typically. So having some fans versus no fans in an outdoor arena might be something that they look at as well. So
you tackle the next question.
Thomas here asks, if a complete dark horse in WWE or AEW were to be made world champion, who do each of you feel would be better suited?
I like that question.
That's a good question. I think I'll answer for both.
As I say, let's give one answer for both apiece.
So for WWE right now, my like dark horse person that I want as WWE champion is Ricochet.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I really do. I think they have missed the ball time and time again with Ricochet. Ricochet puts on great matches. He's not the best on the mic, but I really think, I've even told you before, I think if they were to turn Ricochet heel and kind of go with the King Ricochet gimmick, and make him heel, I think he would be a really, really good like SmackDown WWE champion or Universal champion. So for WWE, I think my dark horse guy would be Ricochet. The other person that sticks out is Aleister Black, but I don't really consider him a dark horse. I think they're slowly building him. Ricochet is the one that's sitting on the bench right now. That's kind of shocking to me. As far as AEW goes, I don't really know if there's like what I would call a dark horse, because they think, like I said, they leave a lot of open-ended type storylines out there. So that one is a little bit tougher for me. But selfishly, I think I'd want to see like Pentagon Jr. as AEW champion.
Penta L. Zero M.
Whatever you want to call him. I loved what he did in Lucha, and I think he would be entertaining to watch as.
So my WWE pick is strictly because of current placement on the roster. I guess is maybe the best way to put it. Excuse me. But my dark horse, and this is going to be maybe delving into fantasy booking a little too much, but my WWE dark horse, whether you put the WWF or Universal title on him, would be Adam Cole. Do it in such a way that let's say Survivor Series rolls around and the WWF title picture is looking stale. Actually, it does look stale at the moment. Let's say we're going to have a cross-branded match where you've got Drew McIntyre as WWF champion, but they're going to say, okay, we're going to bring someone from SmackDown as a mystery opponent. We're also going to bring someone from NXT that is a mystery opponent, but the WWF title is on the line. And should the individual from SmackDown win, then he is now on Raw. If the individual from NXT wins the title, he is now on Raw. Adam Cole would be your NXT mystery opponent. He wins the WWF title. He's on Raw. It works. He's already over. And it puts intrigue back on the WWF title, in my opinion. If you go over to AEW, that one I have to think a little bit more about. Just because, like we've said, they're not really... In AEW, no one's really pigeonholed because, again, like we've said, there's not card placements or there are physical card placements, but not as a talent. A dark horse AEW champion. Give me a second, guys. I'm just trying to think.
It really is tough because they just don't shut the door on anybody.
No.
You know what I mean? Like WWE really shuts the door on a lot of people.
And when we're giving dark horse predictions, it's got to be believable. So we can't just say, okay, well, my dark horse is going to be,
Drake Maverick.
But yeah, I mean, it can't be a QT Marshall,
Right, for sure. Sure.
Oh gosh, give me a second.
The problem is AEW has a lot of talented dudes too that are probably deserving of a title shot, even if they would probably never really get one.
Yeah, and we're just going by current roster. We're not gonna say a dark horse is somebody that comes in as a surprise and then they win the belt.
Right.
Man. I mean, this is really a tough one. I can't really think of anybody that it would make sense. Because again, as a dark horse, it would have to be not make sense in terms of storyline because you could make it work, but it'd have to be like a believable thing. Because I don't think someone like Matt Cardona would make sense. I mean, because I just wouldn't buy it. You'd almost have to do like a storyline change and makes like maybe make Jake Hager into a face and have him win the title or something like that.
See that.
I mean, a year from now, if you're really pushing Sammy Guevara to the moon, I mean, that could be a possibility. But that one's obviously just tougher because again, you don't have guys that are pigeonholed to say you're right now you are low card status, your mid card status, your upper card status. And the reason we're rehashing that is because we've got more viewers that have jumped on within the last 15 or 20 minutes and weren't here for the first part of the show. And if you have joined us recently, we appreciate it. Hang with us for another 5 or 10 minutes. We're going to do our giveaway shortly to wrap up the show. While we're still talking, what I want you to do is to make sure you guys are entered into the drawing. I just need you to reply with the word HERE, HERE, on our thread, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube. That's going to automatically put you into my little randomizer thing. I don't even have to do anything with it. It'll just automatically populate you into the drawing. So just type the word HERE, hit enter, and you're automatically in, and we'll do the drawing here in a little bit. I don't really have a definitive answer for AEW because you'd really have to take you'd almost have to change some stuff around. Again, you'd have to, if you did it with Jake Hager, you'd have to make him a face. You'd have to maybe a year from now have Sammy have had a good solid push. You'd have to maybe break up a tag team or something like that. Like I know you mentioned Penta already. That would be different because he's competed as a singles already. You'd almost have to take somebody like Matt or Nick Jackson and just randomly throw them in.
Right.
And even that one's kind of far-fetched in my opinion.
It's hard to see some of those guys that way when they've been tagged for so long.
Yeah, I mean it's almost maybe a Luchasaurus. I mean that could be
Jungle Boy as well. Both of them have the capability of putting on those kind of matches.
Yeah, Jungle Boy. Jungle Boy is so small as far as his size, and him trying to lug around that AEW championship might be a little bit of a task. I don't know. That one's a tougher one for me. To be completely honest.
While everyone's still typing here, I do want to tackle one more thing because a lot of people asked it. Retribution is kind of been a common theme in the questions here. What are our thoughts on them? Who might be the leader in a sense. I'm going to give my take real quick. I did read something today. I don't like to talk on these stories too heavy because I don't think there's a lot of merit to them. But this person this morning made a huge argument for why it could be, and I could see it. Vince McMahon has been throwing lucrative deals at CM Punk, trying to get CM Punk back, with the ratings dwindling right now. He is really adamant about signing CM Punk, thinking that star value, that star power will boost ratings, which I think with CM Punk it would. Now, the name Retribution sticks out to me with CM Punk. Everyone thought CM Punk was the hacker. I didn't really see that as a CM Punk gimmick. This right here looks like a CM Punk gimmick, wanting to just go in and wreak havoc on the WWE. They really have no end goal. It's just, we're mad that you overlooked us, and here we go. CM Punk falls into that category. He falls in the category of underlooked, underappreciated. I want to come in there and break windows and burn down things and beat up everybody. So if you need a star power with all these NXT, somebody said it earlier, NXT rejects in a sense, CM Punk on a lucrative deal leading a bunch of NXT guys and girls falls right under a CM Punk type storyline to me. So I could see if you need a leader to that group, I could see it. I'm not jumping on board so heavy that I'm like, it's him, because we've heard this 1,000 times. But I thought it made a really good, this person I watched this morning made a really good argument for why, and the story behind the fact that Vince has been putting out lucrative deals, and the fact that CM Punk has been talking more and more about wrestling here on his social media and posting old pics and whatnot. So as far as that goes, I could see that. As far as Retribution as a whole goes, I wasn't and still haven't been a huge fan of the storyline. It is getting better, but I didn't really care for it. I felt like it was underwhelming. I felt like it didn't really have a purpose. I felt like it really didn't fit a mold. The past week with their current or with their promo that they cut, to me it was clear that the big guy talking was Dijakovic, Dominik Dijakovic. It sounded like him. It looks like him. It's a good fit. I also saw a female that to me resembles Mia Yim almost to a T. There was a lot of pictures that were put out there that one looked like The Miz under that, and I could see them twisting him a little bit as well and kind of shifting him, but he's in a prominent storyline right now, so I don't know if it's The Miz. Maybe it's just someone who has similar eyes as him. But if you notice, they're starting to kind of take Retribution's outfits and slowly reveal the faces a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And so they're wanting you to think on who these people are. But I think that, I don't know if I would call them NXT rejects. I think there are a lot of prominent NXT people in that group that are going to be revealed, and that's going to be how they get onto Raw or SmackDown in the main card. And you're going to see a lot of them jump on board with this faction. There's at least 8 or 9 of them. But I do think they need a leader, because I don't think any of them that are in that group that I've named so far are a leader of a faction type mentality. So I'm not on board with it heavy. I don't think I am like in love with the Retribution storyline, but I do think it's getting better. I do think it has potential if they do it at least decently. I'm never going to say the right way, because we can know with WWE that it's usually not done the right way.
Right.
But as long as it's done decently and it leads to debuts for people like Dominik Dijakovic, Mia Yim, and some of those people, I could get on board with it.
Yeah, and you pretty much said my take on Retribution as well. I want to tackle a related question. Thomas says, could you see a female leader of Retribution? No, I don't. I mean, I think it doesn't, this has nothing to do with gender equality, guys, so please don't misunderstand me, but I just think from a storyline standpoint, from a presentation standpoint, it would just lose some of its steam if you've got a female leader. Now, unless it's somebody that's already established, maybe somebody that's a prior legend or something like that would be good on the mic. When we've talked about this previously, there aren't really a ton of female legends that were decent on the mic. I mean, you've got a handful of them, and I wouldn't even say you've got a handful. You've got maybe 2 or 3. Trish was okay. Lita was okay.
It also has to make sense though. Like it's
And I agree. And I was getting there. Neither of those two would make any sense whatsoever. It would just be like, oh, okay. I think someone said AJ Lee is leader. No, I don't buy that at all. Just because
it doesn't fit.
well, and she just wasn't. It just seemed like she wasn't really in WWE for that long. I mean, just by association, yes, she's CM Punk's wife in real life, but it's like, again, how do you make sense of that? Like, where's the tie-in?
The only girl that I could see, kind of, I agree with you. I don't think it's a girl. I don't think there's anybody there that meets the requirements for me. Paige would be the only one that I feel like gimmick-wise it could kind of fit and work in with, but ultimately I just don't think that that's the case.
Yeah, I agree. All right, guys. So looks like we've got a good amount of people that replied with the word here that are entered into our drawing. So we're going to conclude the show with this. What we're going to do is, as usual, this is going to be a 10-click randomizer. On the 10th click, whoever is pulled up will be the winner. Do you think I should reveal what we're giving away, or just surprise the winner?
I'll put it like this. It's a big money item, all right? It is a big money item.
Okay, I'll just reveal it. So the reason I'm revealing it is because Cole makes it sound like it's super, 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 super valuable. And I don't want...
It is. It's one of the most valuable things in wrestling.
All right, so it's not a belt. So I just wanted to make that clear. But what Cole means, as far as it being a big money item, this is actually, I think, a really cool thing in terms of just wrestling
memorabilia.
Memorabilia. I was going to say I didn't want to use the word souvenir, but this is what we're giving away, guys. We're giving away a lot of bucks, a lot of young bucks. So this is a handful of the money that they shoot out at AEW events. And there's a lot of pieces here. I mean, as you can see, this is super thick. So this is a nice little stack of young bucks. So it's a cool little piece of memorabilia. So that's what the winner will be getting.
Don't spend it all in one place.
Exactly. If you're the winner and you don't want this, A, I won't be the least bit offended, but B, let me know so maybe we can give this away to someone that would appreciate it and someone that would actually want it. So that being said, I will only ship for free to anyone that lives in the United States. So if you live in Alaska or Hawaii or internationally and you really want this, you'll have to pay for shipping. And in that case, I don't even know if it'd be worth it or not, but we can figure that out later. And the winner has to claim their prize. So if you win, you have to message me, give me your shipping address, and
24 hours.
Yeah, you have 24 hours from the time that I announce the winner to claim your prize. So we're going to do our 10-click randomizer. Hopefully this will pick this up. Here we go. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, the next click will be our winner. Number 10 is Joe Thompson. Joe Thompson is the winner of the Young Bucks. So Joe Thompson needs to contact me within 24 hours with your mailing address. You can contact me through our Going Broadway podcast Facebook page or through my personal Facebook page as well. Either one will be fine. So again, Joe Thompson, congratulations. You are our winner of the Young Bucks. And we appreciate you guys joining us today and hanging out with us. And I'll keep you updated if Joe claims his prize or not on our social media pages across the board. It looked like Joe commented on our page roughly 2 minutes ago.
Yep.
So, Joe, if you're still on here, just let us know. But again, you have to actually message me with your address within 24 hours. So you have until 10:40 a.m. 10:40 a.m. p.m. Good grief. 10:40 a.m. tomorrow morning to contact me with your mailing address. And assuming you live within the lower 48 states, these will ship out to you for free. Any final thoughts from you, sir?
Guys, thanks for watching the show again. Hopefully you guys like the new segments. We went about 10 minutes over. We're still learning our timings on the segments, but this has helped us stay on time and still have great conversations about wrestling and whatnot. So let us know in the comments what you thought about today's show, and we will start to kind of address which segments you liked better, which ones you didn't really care for. You'll see more new segments added as we build upon this, but we had a great show today. Make sure you go get that Alex Cole Bay merch. It's comfortable. You need it. You want it. And I'm telling you, you need to get it today. So message us about those. But thank you for watching the greatest wrestling podcast ever. We appreciate it.
Joe is in Canada. Okay, Joe, we'll have to work that out because I don't know how much shipping to Canada would be. But message me your address and I'll figure it out because if you... I'll tell you what, just real quick, Joe, if you're against paying for shipping, let us know while we're on the air now, because if you don't want to pay for shipping, we'll do this drawing again real quick. Honestly, off the top of my head, I don't know how much shipping would be for sure, but I'm guessing for something like this, I don't know, this would probably be to Canada, maybe $15 to ship. Off the top of my head. It could be plus or minus that, but Joe, if you don't want to pay for shipping, just let us know on the thread while we're still on the air. If you don't want to pay for the shipping, totally understand. And if not, we'll do this drawing again while we're still on. Like Cole said, we went over a little bit. Not a big deal. We'll work on the segments as far as timing and things like that. But the main reason we're doing the segments is so we don't get off on tangents like we have had a habit of doing. Myself especially. Okay, Joe says redraw it. Okay, so we're going to redraw this, guys. So unfortunately, Joe lives in Canada. We do appreciate our international viewers. However, I can only cover shipping to the lower 48 states. So let's redraw this. Just 1 second, guys. I got to get this pulled back up. I do still have the list. No pun intended. Talk to the people while I'm doing this.
All right.
Okay, we're good. Nice job on your Matthew McConaughey impression.
All right.
All right. Okay. All right, guys, we're going to redraw this. So, again, recap. If you win, you have to contact me within 24 hours. I do not contact winners. You have to live in the lower 48 states to be
shipped free.
To be shipped for free. All right, here we go. 10 clicks. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going a little faster this time. 8, 9, 10th click. Here we go for suspense. Drum roll. And number 10, Brandon Tompkins. Brandon, if you are still on, you are the winner this time around. So Brandon Tompkins, you have won. And if Brandon contacts me within the next 24 hours, then he will get this stack of Young Bucks. Again, that's Brandon Tompkins. If Brandon is still on, let us know. We'll give it a couple minutes.
We did drop a couple viewers, so he might have logged off.
That's all right. But guys, that's why you hang with us till the end, because
you never know.
Exactly, you never know. I mean, given the day, you never know if I would have done a second drawing just because we can. So, Brandon Tompkins, if you are still online, let us know. You are the real winner of the Young Bucks, assuming you do live within the lower 48 states and or would be open to paying for shipping. Let's see. I'm just giving it for time lag's sake. I'm just giving it an extra few minutes, but looks like we have oh, you just tagged him, I see. Okay. All right, guys. Well, if Brandon gets back to me within 24 hours, he will be the winner of these Young Bucks. But if not, I guess we'll just do this drawing again for our live viewers next Thursday. So for Cole, for Alex, myself, we thank you guys for tuning in this week, and we will catch you next Thursday.
And so, goodbye. Mwah. And good night. Bye.
This podcast was a presentation of LightUpMedia.fm.